Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final installment of the College Connection webinar series. We can't believe that it's coming to an end. We started this journey in September, and we're so thankful to have Carmen Giannetti from the Warner College of Natural Resources joining us today to present on this great college at CSU. Before Carmen gets started, I'd like to thank Nicole Schmidt and Allison Geary. They are my colleagues in the Office of Engagement and Extension, and they are taking care of all the technology behind the scenes, if you will. So they're making sure that the feed to Facebook Live is working, and they're monitoring the Q&A function and the chat. And so if you have questions, please drop those in there. I'd also like to thank Ali Eden for providing the simultaneous interpretation. Ali does an amazing job, and you're going to be able to get this information in Spanish if you'd like. We'd like to thank Erica Shiwada, who is a professor at CSU. He also has an appointment with the Office of Engagement and Extension on the extension side, and he's leading the DEI efforts for the Office of Engagement and Extension. And with that, I'd like to welcome Carmen.
Thank you, Ruben. And can everyone see my screen okay? Perfect. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger for everyone. Well, thank you again so much for having me. I am Carmen Giannetti. I am super excited to chat with you all a little bit more about the Warner College of Natural Resources at Colorado State University. And to do so, I am going to start off with a quick video to kind of showcase what we do on a day-to-day basis here in the College of Natural Resources. So I should have waited before I blew up my screen there, but we'll get started with this video.
Our students are really passionate about what they do, so I know that every student who comes in my classroom is interested in natural resources and wants to make the world a better place. So that's an exciting group of people to work with.
Our students see the future and see the opportunity that they have in front of them, and they're so pumped up about it. Teaching them to think a little more critically, to harness that optimism and that energy is inspiring.
I chose to come to CSU because I sense that this university is really focused on outreach with the community and making research useful for the community.
We can go outside at any time and have access to a museum that represents billions of years of Earth history. And so we have this backyard that provides this incredible opportunity to take students in the field.
Whether or not you're talking about on campus or in our mountain campus or international experiences, the students get an opportunity to get out in the field and speak directly to that passion of being outdoors.
It extends beyond the typical classroom. The world is basically our classroom.
It provides them with really relevant skills to enter the workforce, and there's very exciting job opportunities so that they're actually learning skills that are directly transferable to jobs after graduation.
I understand that I have a privilege to take care of the environment, to be a steward of the environment, so I take that very seriously, and I think a lot of students in this college share that sentiment.
We really would like to have the students in our classes have that global representation. So we endeavored to make sure students are working with students different than themselves.
It's great to be a part of a community where everyone's coming together because they want to make a difference in the world around us.
I think what bonds us all together is the mutual passion for the natural environment and our desire to share it with everybody else.
We are mentoring real leaders that inspire change.
All righty. And I'm back, I think, maybe. Perfect. So with that, just hello again. My name is Carmen Giannetti. My title is the Recruitment and Engagement Coordinator for the college. So I meet with prospective students, counselors, kind of everyone looking for more information on the College of Natural Resources. I've included my contact information here. So if you have any questions after the presentation or just in general about the college, I'm more than happy to get in touch with you and share anything from this presentation or beyond. So to get us started, as you saw in our video, the Warner College experience is something that's really, really unique to Colorado State University in that we have 9 unique undergraduate majors. They're all Bachelor of Science. So regardless of which area of study you are in, our students are getting a really strong scientific and technical education. Experiential learning is definitely what we kind of focus on within the College of Natural Resources. And again, as you saw in that video, it can look like several different things. It can be our students out in the field. It can look like undergraduate research opportunities, internships, study abroad, really anything that we can do to get our students prepared for their field of study in natural resources we are doing in that academic setting. We also have residential learning communities where students can live in the same residence halls as other students that are also in the Natural Resources College, which helps make that large school feel a little bit smaller when you're moving onto campus and living on campus for the first time. We also have some new student seminars. And again, all of this we will talk about a little bit more throughout the presentation today, but just kind of a sneak peek of what is to come. And we like to showcase how our students are succeeding through some of this data. So this is based on our first destination survey. So students that graduated in the academic years 2021 and 2022, 96% of our students had an excellent or good experience in their major, and 80% of our Warner grads had plans secured in their field upon graduation. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the umbrella of the Warner College. So obviously there's a huge emphasis on our academic departments. That's where all of our majors are housed out of. It is where all of our advisors are working out of. It is where our professors are conducting research. So that is that academic side. We have 5 different departments you'll see listed there: ecosystem science and sustainability, fish, wildlife, and conservation biology, forest and rangeland stewardship, Geosciences, and human dimensions of natural resources. And then on the flip side of that, we also have what we like to call our non-academic departments. And these are the centers and institutes that are conducting their own independent work, but they operate out of the Warner College of Natural Resources. So this is another really great way for our students to have access to that hands-on experience, whether that is through an internship with the Colorado State Forest Service. So that's a huge one. They are the state branch of the Federal Forest Service, and they operate directly out of our College of Natural Resources. So it gives our students, not just in forest and rangeland stewardship, an amazing opportunity to work for the Forest Service, but we also need wildlife biology students and geology students that are working in those technical jobs. Just last summer, we had 17 paid internships exclusively for our Warner students. This summer, that's increased to 25 paid internships, again, exclusively for our Warner students. And that's all over the state of Colorado. Another example I like to give is through our Environmental Learning Center. So this takes a little bit of that different approach where their focus is really primarily on environmental education. And so if you are a student or have a student interested in working with community members, particularly K through 12 groups in Fort Collins, the Environmental Learning Center focuses on creating summer camps and education modules and lots of different engagement opportunities for people in the community. So those types of technical experiences can look really, really different. And again, those are just opportunities right here within our college. All right, so I apologize. My next few slides are going to be a little information heavy, but I am going to go through each of our departments and highlight each of the majors within those. As I'm going through those, you're going to see lists of our academic success coordinators. Those are our advisors within the department. You'll notice that at most, we only have 3 advisors, and that's because we are a bit of a smaller college. And so you're going to have the same advisor all 4 years for our students coming in for orientation, all the way up through that graduation. So our advisors are a great resource for students. You'll see some of our student organizations that are associated, which can be great networking opportunities, as well as some potential careers that are very specific to the majors within this particular department. So I'll start with ecosystem science and sustainability. So this, we like to say, is kind of our best of both worlds department, where you have this really strong biological scientific emphasis, while also coupling that with our sustainability initiatives. So ecosystem science sustainability as a major really is very similar to a general environmental studies program, where you're learning a lot of that, again, biological science, your animal, your plant biology. You're thinking about the ways that our people, our plants, and our animals are all interacting with their ecosystem. And then that sustainability component comes in, where you're thinking maybe a little bit more about sustainable policy. You're thinking about sustainable history. So it ties in more of that interpersonal aspect to environmental studies. With this program in particular, because it is, again, kind of that balance between science and people, there are a lot of different avenues that our students find in terms of careers. So a lot of students might focus on more of the research side of things. They want to work in a lab, they want to learn how to do plant ID, and then they're wanting to apply that to a graduate program. We also have students that are actually pre-law students in ecosystem science sustainability, where they want that really strong scientific foundation, but then are applying that to environmental policy after they're graduating. We also see students that are interested in bridging that gap between natural resources and technology, where they're wanting to learn more about geospatial information sciences, or they're wanting to do more of that programming type work with environmental studies, and then take that into more of a corporate setting. So there's a lot of different ways that ecosystem science sustainability can look for all of the students within that program. It's almost our build your own major, if you will. Watershed science and sustainability is very, very similar, but instead of having that emphasis on the ecosystem, we have that emphasis specifically on water in our watersheds, which is very important in the state of Colorado, hence the newness of this program, as we saw students really developing an interest in watershed and learning about how that's impacting our state in particular. We wanted to make sure that we had a program that students could go right into that. And so watershed science sustainability has several different approaches. You can see the concentrations listed there. Watershed science and watershed data are going to be a little bit more physical science oriented, where you're going to be out in the field learning how to do stream collection, running data analysis on the water quality. And watershed sustainability is going to be a little bit more of those conversations around how are we creating equitable water policies for people in our community? And obviously there can be a blend of those two things. There's also snow hydrology that can be a component of that. So watershed science and sustainability is another really, really amazing program that we just recently added. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is our Fish, Wildlife, and Conservation Biology department. So this is our largest department within the Warner College. We have about 600 students in Fish, Wildlife, and Conservation Biology. There is just the one major in this department, but there are 3 different concentrations. So as a whole, Fish, Wildlife, and Conservation Biology is our very animal-focused program. It is a biology degree, hence the title, but we're a little bit different from general biology or zoology, where those programs focus really specifically on an animal at that organismal level. We take a little bit more of that zoomed out approach, and we think about animals as a species. And so what that looks like within conservation biology is how are we thinking about conservation with that interaction between animal species and humans? How are we creating conservation policies? How are we looking at what is already in effect within our environment? Is that the most beneficial for both humans and our wildlife? Wildlife biology is going to be a lot of that hands-on exposure with animal species. So the example we like to give is maybe you get to learn how to do radio telemetry. So that is where you're learning how to collar animals, and then you're using essentially a giant radio pole, and you're tracking their different migration patterns, or you're tracking their different data around habitat loss or climate change as it's impacting an animal species as a whole. Fisheries and aquatic sciences, very, very similar to wildlife biology, but again, it's going to be more of that focus on our fish and our aquatic animals. So we can't really radio tag a fish, but we can track them. And so that is more of our electrofishing, where we're putting on our giant Ghostbusters-esque backpack. We put a probe in the water and it stuns the fish, and then we track them, and again, run some data collection and analysis on those. So that is what fish wildlife conservation biology includes within the Warner College of Natural Resources. Our next program, our next department is Forest and Rangeland Stewardship, and Warner actually started as the College of Forestry in 1904. So we have very, very deep roots in our forestry program, pun intended. Within the department, we have 3 different majors. So the namesake major is Forest and Rangeland Stewardship. We like to say that this is kind of that flip side of the same coin as fish, wildlife, and conservation biology. But instead of that really strong animal emphasis, we have a really strong plant emphasis here in Forest and Rangeland Stewardship. So you can see all of the different concentrations that are listed under that. So these are the different areas of specialization that you can take within Forest and Rangeland Stewardship. Forest biology is going to be a little bit more of that deep dive into plants at that cellular level. That could also include plant genetics. Forest fire science is thinking really specifically about our wildland fires, effects, prevention, adaptation, mitigation, all that goes into that. The last 3 that you see all have a management emphasis, but they're going to be applied to a different plant population. So forest management thinks very specifically about managing our forests, our trees. Rangeland and forest management is that combination of our trees and our grasslands. And then rangeland conservation and management thinks really specifically about our grasses and our forest understories. So it's really amazing that we have a range component, particularly when you're thinking about the state of Colorado. We obviously have the Rocky Mountains and we have our forests, but we also have all of our grasses and our prairies on the eastern side of Colorado. And so it's really important that our students get that kind of globalized approach and thinking about both of those components, and not just the fun, shiny trees, which are amazing to study, but it's great that our students have that exposure to range as well. The next major is natural resources management. So this gives our students, again, that really strong management emphasis, but to all of these different avenues of natural resources. So we talked a bit about ecosystem science and watershed and fish wildlife conservation biology, forestry, but natural resources management ties all of those together also with geosciences and human dimensions. So it gives our students that opportunity to explore all of the different facets of natural resources through a scientific and a policy and a management lens. There is an asterisk by this major because although it is our most interdisciplinary, we do want students to focus that into a specialization. And so it does require a minor. So a lot of students, it's very common for them to pair this with geospatial information science. They're wanting to, again, kind of bridge that technical gap, learning how to fly drones and build those virtual maps. They also might pair this with forestry, but if you have an interest outside of the College of Natural Resources, you can also minor in that area as well. So it gives our students a little bit more of that flexibility to maybe tie in a second language or maybe an art credit or something along those lines. And then the last major within Forest and Rangeland Stewardship is restoration ecology. And so this is, again, a very, very plant-specific major, hence ecology in the title. But we also have a really strong focus on restoration. So what are the ways that our environment has been damaged or disturbed over time? And what are we doing about that now to kind of reflect on those and create more sustainable practices going forward? So when you're thinking about it, a lot of the majors I've talked about so far have a really strong conservation emphasis. We can't have conservation work without restoration. It's kind of looking back over what have we done over time, and is that still applicable nowadays? And because of that, it gives students in restoration ecology a really great opportunity to do a lot of work across the entire college, but also across the entire university. So we have students in restoration ecology that are working over in the College of Agricultural Sciences in our Soil and Crop Sciences lab, or that are working for the biology department, which is part of the College of Natural Sciences. So our students can really take this in a lot of different ways because restoration is so critical to not only natural resources, but so many of those other STEM programs across the university. All right, our next department, again, I am getting close on the information heavy portion of these slides, which is Geosciences. So this is our smallest department within the college. So it really gives our students that really tight-knit community within these classrooms, with working with your faculty and working with your advisors. There is just the one major, it's the geology major within the Geosciences department, but there are 4 different concentrations listed there. So geology can be a lot of different things. There's hard geology science and there's also soft geology science. So the general geology concentration kind of bridges all of those. It talks about the rocks, the minerals, the tectonic plates, the earthquakes, volcanoes, all of those different things. Geophysics is going to be a little bit more of that physical science, that problem solving, that math oriented thinking, thinking a little bit more about, we like to call it abstract geology. So it's not necessarily the geology that you can see, but maybe you're learning more about the equations that are used to determine when a volcano will erupt or when an earthquake will happen. It's more of that below the surface of Earth's crust, thinking a little bit more in that abstract way. Environmental geology, this is our most popular concentration within the department. And so this is a little bit more of that surface level geology, thinking about that interaction between our physical Earth and the people that are living there. And so this could include hazard mitigation, thinking about landslides and prevention along those lines. And then hydrogeology is that combination essentially of our watershed program and our geosciences program. So what are the ways that our water is interacting with our physical Earth? And so geology as a whole, because it deals so much, again, with the physical science, has a ton of hands-on opportunities. Every single one of your geology classes has some sort of field trip or lab component associated with it, because it's so crucial for our students to gain those hands-on experiences using the field equipment and knowing how to run that data collection and analysis. So geology is definitely out in the field a lot. And then our last department, but certainly not least, is our human dimensions of natural resources. So this one, I recognize the title is a little bit less intuitive than some of the other departments, but essentially what human dimensions of natural resources means is when we're thinking about these natural resource issues, we're working on a forestry problem, but we're needing wildlife biology folks to work on that. We need geologists working on that. We also need people to collect all of that scientific knowledge and then translate that out to the general public and to stakeholders to get people engaged with what is happening in our field that don't necessarily have the deep scientific backgrounds. And so that is what our human dimensions folks are doing. They're essentially the translators of natural resources. And you can see that through the potential careers: communications coordinators, park rangers, environmental educators. Anytime that you're thinking about somebody in that natural resources field or that recreation field that's working with other people, they potentially have a human dimensions background. And so it is a little bit more of that social science-based type of work. So thinking again about how people are interacting with their environment. And then natural resource tourism is that same kind of methodology, but it also incorporates a business-based approach. So we're thinking a lot about how tourism and travel and marketing and hospitality and recreation all come together through a natural resources perspective. And so within this department, we have our wilderness programs. And so what that means is students can actually take classes to learn about avalanche safety while learning how to become a ski instructor. They can learn about raft guide and raft guide safety. They can learn about backpacking leadership and mountain biking leadership. And these are all classes that our students can get credit for while also being outside and participating in different environmental activities that they already love to do. And with that, those are all of the departments and those are all of the majors. And if there are other interests, we also have minors for almost every single equivalent one of our programs. We like to say in our college, it's really easy to Lego your interests together because oftentimes it's only adding a few extra classes to add in a minor or add in a second major. And so there's a lot of flexibility and there's a lot of overlap, and it gives our students that opportunity to specialize in a lot of different areas. Okay, that kind of, again, wraps up my really big academic portion of the presentation. And now I'm going to dive a little bit more into the student life within the Warner College. So what are some additional benefits of being a part of our college? So as I mentioned a bit at the beginning, we are smaller. We're actually the second smallest college on Colorado State University's campus, which gives us kind of, we think, an added bonus, where students have the resources of a really large research institution. They can be involved in a lot of different things. But then when you're in that classroom setting, we are a lot smaller. We have just over 1,600 students in Warner. That's across all 9 of our majors. As I mentioned, in fish wildlife biology, we've got over 600 students, but in geology, we have about 90. So that can look like a class of 10 students. It could look like a class of 40 students at most. So again, it gives our students a really great opportunity to build those connections and have that big school feel, but also make it feel a lot smaller on that day-to-day basis. So some additional benefits, we have a natural resource career services and support team. They are completely dedicated to the students within our college and helping them find opportunities for internships and other involvements, helping them make their resume or applying for jobs specific to that natural resources field. As you saw in some of those past slides, student clubs and organizations are a phenomenal way to get involved, and you don't necessarily have to be tied to a specific program to get involved. Maybe you're really interested in studying forest and rangeland stewardship, but you are really also interested in wildlife, and you don't necessarily want to study that, but you want to join the Wildlife Society and participate in some of their raptor monitoring that they do on the weekends or some of their networking events. That is totally available to you. As a whole, at the university, we have over 500 clubs and organizations that range from Greek life, IM sports, college councils. So there really are a lot of different ways to get involved on campus. We also have computer labs and free printing in our building specific to our Warner students. Again, I mentioned we have a really strong scientific and technical focus within our education. And so if we're using different softwares, we want to make sure our students have access to labs and printing that helps aid in that academic experience. Scholarships, this is a big one. So within our college, we give out every year over $1 million in scholarships, again, exclusively to students in our college. Another benefit of us being a bit of a smaller college is a smaller applicant pool for those scholarships. They do vary year to year because we're in such a natural resource dependent field. If there are certain problems that are emerging, there might be more funding for certain things that are happening. For example, after the Cameron Peak fires that were a few years ago, we saw a huge influx in funding for students to study forest fire science. So it really is kind of dependent year to year. That also could look like scholarships that you might find through our development office. But regardless, there are lots of scholarships. And we like to say that as students get more involved in their classes, as they start meeting those faculty members and your advisors, those are the folks that are reading those applications. And so it's really great to network with them, especially in your first year on campus, and find out which opportunities you are eligible for. We have a phenomenal advising team, and they, again, in addition to helping get you connected with scholarships and what classes you need to be taking, they're very plugged in across the entire university. So they're just a great resource for you. And we also have a really prevalent diversity and inclusion program within our college. They promote different trainings, both at that student level as well as that faculty and staff level. They capture the different demographics of our college through an annual report. So they're very, very involved in what we're doing within our field. Additional ways to get involved. If you couldn't tell by now, student orgs are really, really amazing. And our students really benefit from being involved in there. The Wildlife Society I mentioned, our Society of American Foresters is also very prevalent. And not only are these organizations very prevalent within our college and on campus, but they also have a lot of national network opportunities and carry a lot of weight in that sense. Our Society of American Foresters chapter was actually the first student chapter ever created. And so we are the Alpha chapter. We take a lot of pride in that. We were actually recognized as the chapter of the year in 2023. And so that's a great opportunity for students, again, with any interest in forestry whatsoever, to go to different conventions, to network with other national foresters, to find different jobs and scholarship opportunities. So that is just one example, but lots and lots of ways to get involved on campus. We also have natural resources residential learning communities, which I mentioned at the beginning. So all of these communities are living together in the same residence hall on campus. They're all housed in Summit. And all of the students are members of Warner College, but they might have different majors or different programs. So you could be in outdoor leadership, but your roommate is in sustainability leadership and they're studying geosciences and you're studying human dimensions of natural resources. So this is a great way, again, to come onto campus day one and meet other people in a similar program that have similar interests. Maybe you're moving a little bit farther away from home, but you get to room with someone that also is passionate about going hiking on the weekends or going fishing on the weekends. Or maybe you find someone that lives a little bit closer to home and then you can carpool together for fall break. So this is a great way to get involved within the college. And also it harnesses a lot of that professional development through this first year seminar that you see. And so this is where students actually get to participate in a lot of that leadership development. And that can be through our different field trips where they go to the Denver Zoo or the Museum of Nature and Science, and they get some behind the scenes tours and really focusing on that leadership development in natural resource settings. We also have a new to the major seminar. So college can be a little intimidating. I'm not going to lie about that one. But a way to kind of help, again, bridge that gap from being not in college to being in college is through this new to the major seminar, where you get to be in the same class as other students, all in the same major. You talk about curriculum and graduation planning, so you know what classes you're going to be registering for in the upcoming semesters. You talk about strategies for academic success. That includes time management, financial management, helping you find access to scholarships, career and research opportunities. And usually the highlight for our students is they get to actually go up to the mountain campus, which is something that the entire university has access to. But in Warner College in particular, we use the mountain campus a lot. And so as early as your first semester, you get to go up there, stay in the cabins, go hiking, do the ropes course. And it gives our students a little preview for some of the classes that are actually run up at the mountain campus. That could be 4 weeks over the summer, or for some of our programs, they get to tack on a few extra things. So maybe you're up there for the whole summer, but it's a really great opportunity to kind of see that early on. And then again, we are a really large university, so there's a lot of support, not just within our college. Academic support, most commonly that's going to be found through the Institute for Learning and Teaching. They offer different tutoring services, especially for a lot of those STEM programs that are going to be really important for our students in that foundational few years. So your biology, chemistry, statistics, calculus, physics. Health and wellness is through the CSU Health Network. We have diversity offices and programs, which are housed in our student center on campus. We have university-wide financial aid, so that can be added on in addition to some of those college-specific scholarships. And then we also have a student disability center. So if you have accommodations in the classroom that you have questions about, or know that you want to have certain accommodations transfer over from high school, our Student Disability Center is phenomenal and can really help you get all of that squared away before you are on campus. And with that, I'll promote some of our social media. So if you want to follow us along and see what we're doing, we have all of the usual things: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then you also will see Tune Into Nature, which is our student-made podcast. So if you need a little something to listen to, want to hear what some of our students are doing on campus, Tune Into Nature. It's available wherever you find your podcasts. And it gives you a little bit of that perspective into student life here in Warner College. And I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to see what questions we have. I'm sorry, I went a little over on my time, but
You're fine. There's so much there to cover, and
yeah,
you did a fabulous job of covering that. And not a question, but I love the line in the video: "The world is our classroom." So I know that those of us that go out and visit with students, Carmen, you can attest to this. Sometimes we're going to meet that student as, I don't want to be behind a computer. I don't want to be in the office. And I always tell them about all of the opportunities in the Warner College of Natural Resources, as well as some of the opportunities available to them in some of the other colleges. But as we're waiting for our attendees to pose their questions in the Q&A feature, Carmen, I did have a specific question. You mentioned the 17 paid internships from last year, exclusively for for students in your college. This year it's increased to 25. One of the questions that we get a lot from incoming high school student, first year students is, am I going to be able to get a scholarship or an internship right away? So those internships, are they specifically for third year, fourth year students, or somebody that maybe has completed their first year would be able to apply for?
Absolutely. So essentially how those work is somebody from the Colorado State Forest Service goes around to our different classes when the opportunities open and they say, hey, they're live. Whatever looks interesting to you, please apply. They're not specific to students in their third and fourth year.
Okay.
You can get involved as early as your first summer here within the Warner College. We've had students get involved in labs as early as their first semester on campus. If you are looking for those opportunities, there is kind of a way of them finding you. Even if you maybe find an opportunity that's not quite the right one, maybe it leads to another lab opportunity or another faculty member that has an area of research or a project that they're working on that aligns a little bit more with what you're looking for. And that's kind of the beauty of, again, our smaller college is we're constantly networking with each other, and our students really are able to get into those opportunities as soon as they are wanting to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carmen. Nicole, do we have questions for Carmen?
We do actually. Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much, Carmen. This was a great presentation, and it was really cool to hear that there's a student-led podcast. I thought that was very unique and awesome for prospective students to be able to hear what college is like there. So first question, are there opportunities for online students to get involved?
Yes. I will say most of our programs are going to be in person. And I think that also is kind of the nature of that hands-on exposure in the natural resources field. However, students can be involved. A lot of our clubs and organizations offer hybrid meetings. So if you're wanting to be involved outside of the classroom, that's a great way to get involved. And then I would also say, if you have specific questions about what it looks like to be an online student in our college, I would also recommend reaching out to the advisors specific to that department, because they're going to have a much better sense of what classes you're going to be able to take virtually, what are going to be really important that you take in person, whether that's on campus at CSU, or maybe that's through another university or community college and it's a transfer credit. But they're going to have a really good sense of which programs are going to be really important that you're, focusing on certain classes online and others in that other way. But I would say definitely through the student orgs, reaching out to, they all have their emails listed on the student org website that's university wide, and many of them have those virtual opportunities as well.
Perfect, thank you. And I just went ahead and put in the chat a link to our online Bachelor's of Science in Natural Resource Tourism, in case anybody wants to check that out. But thank you. There is another question. If my major is outside of Warner College, but my minor is in Warner, can I still get the benefits that Warner offers?
Yes, you can. Great question. You are still Warner by association. So if you have Warner at all, come on over. And even if your major or minor are not in Warner College, again, you can still be involved in some of those student orgs and still kind of find those ties within the Warner community. We're very welcoming. We want people to come over and see our plant wall.
I love that. And yes, that building is beautiful. So that is worth a visit alone, the Warner College. Excellent. And then last question that I'm seeing here so far, are there ever remote internship opportunities that you're aware of?
There are. So that is kind of that, again, that bridge between that technical side of natural resources. So geospatial information science is a really huge growing field. Essentially, it is the study of Google Earth and Google Maps. So if you're familiar with using navigation systems, that is all powered through GIS. And so essentially students are learning how to use that different programming. They're also sometimes learning how to fly drones and create virtual maps. So that definitely presents itself with a lot of remote opportunities and a lot of job security, I will also say.
While we're waiting for other questions, and Nicole's keeping tabs on that, going back to the line in the video, the world is our classroom, and Nicole just mentioned the Warner College of Natural Resources. Your physical building is amazing. Recently remodeled. You have that fabulous conference room that it looks like you're sitting in a tree house if you like being up high and looking at trees. But right next to the Warner College of Natural Resources, Carmen, is that area that has all those trees.
Yes.
Can you speak a
Sherwood
little bit about
Forest.
that? Yes, please.
Absolutely. So right on campus, right outside of our main building, we have Sherwood Forest. And so essentially that is our forest away from forest, where a lot of our students that are taking some of those forestry measurement classes can actually go out and see a lot of our native Colorado trees. We used to have almost every native Colorado tree. We've had a few lightning strikes over the years, so we've lost a few of them. But sometimes our students go out and the professor's like, okay, we're going to pretend that everything in Sherwood is a ponderosa pine. And you do different measurements. You learn how to do tree coring samples. It's really a great tool for that hands-on work. It's also just a fun place to sit on the grass and have lunch or hammock or hacky sack in between classes. So our students are definitely out there, especially right now. It's a beautiful sunny day up here in Fort Collins. I bet I could go out there right now and count at least 15 different groups of students that are all hanging out. We have a rock amphitheater out there as well. So again, on those nice days, we might have classes that go out that maybe aren't doing tree measurements, but they just want to sit outside and enjoy the beautiful weather while they get to learn about something. So that's another great classroom space that we have.
Fabulous place to hang out, as Carmen mentioned. Nicole, do we have any other questions for Carmen?
No, we do not.
Okay.
But feel free if anybody has any last minute questions to put them in there, or you can always unmute yourself as well. And then I will also just put in the chat a link to our College Connection playlist. So if you want to check out all our other previous College Connection videos in English or Spanish, you can do so there. And thank you so much, Carmen.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you for the time.
Absolutely. You've been listening to Carmen Giannetti with the Warner College of Natural Resources on the College Connection webinar. We thank you for joining us. We will be sending an email out to all of our contacts in the various regions in the state, providing those links to the recordings. We ask that you please share those links with your high school students. We ask that you share them with 4-H club leaders, FFA advisors / ag teachers, and anyone else that would like to learn more about the College of Natural Resources, and then all of the other subsequent colleges that have presented during this webinar series. I'd like to thank my colleagues, Nicole Schmidt and Allison Geary, for taking care of all the technology. They make it so easy for us to just be able to sit here and listen and visit with our guest speakers. Thanks to Allie Eden for her amazing job with interpreting for us and providing this information in Spanish to those. I love the way she says, if you want to hear the presentation in the language of your heart. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you sometime soon on campus or out in one of the many different community colleges or high schools that we visit. Adios. Thank you so much.